How can we as podcast hosts be more supportive of the people in our community? Whether that's our podcast audience, our social media following, the people on our email list, whatever that looks like for you, how can we be proactive in supporting people that are members of our community? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get right to it. Hey everybody, Krystal here today, and I want to talk about how you can be supportive of the members of your podcast community. This can look like many different ways, and many different types of people, and the many different platforms that you are using to build a community around your podcast. So I want to speak directly to how you can support members of your podcast community, whether that is on social media, it's on your email list, it's in private Facebook groups or other communities online. I want you to think about all of them as all-encompassing. Anybody that could be your ideal listener or someone who is part of your audience, I want you to think about how you can support them. So I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can be supportive of the members of your podcast community. So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to actually encourage community. So what does that mean? That means establishing a common ground, like a common meeting place, or like I'm thinking of like a virtual water cooler, right? Like I came from the corporate world and I totally understand. We always had this one place, like it was like a coffee bar where like the mini fridge was, people kept their lunch, but everyone always like congregated at the coffee bar, which was the virtual, I guess it wasn't virtual, it was the actual water cooler, but it was a coffee bar. Again, going back to my coffee obsession, that's probably why I always talked to people and chatted with them there. Anyway, we're going on like a totally different tangent, but I want you to have a place that supports community. So for my podcast, I created a Facebook group. You can check it out. There's going to be a link below, but this is a free Facebook group for members of the Proffitt podcast online community. And we have conversations there. I post in there almost daily about podcasting tips and strategies. And every Wednesday, I let members of the community share their latest podcast episodes. So it's really encouraging people to get out of their comfort zone, right? Come out of your shell a little bit and join a community of like-minded people, because that is what is so important about being part of a community. I want you to attract ideal listeners and other people that you want to be part of your community. Invite them to the party and tell them, hey, we're all hanging out in this Facebook group or this online community, or join our email list where we talk about such and such things every single week, whatever that looks like for you. And I know it's going to look different for everybody across the different platforms and topics and communities out there. But I do think that it is so important to establish first that you are trying to build a community, and then figure out what that looks like to engage with the community, right? Because you could build a platform with millions of followers and tons of listeners and everything, but if there's no community connected to it, then you're not really building anything of significance, right? You're just building numbers, stats. But once you start getting that engagement piece, you can really start supporting your podcast community whenever they are highly engaged with what you're doing. So that is step number 1. You have to first establish community and where you're going to hang out online, or what that looks like for you and your podcast. The second thing that I want you to do to support your podcast community is ask them, how can I help you? And I know that this sounds so simple. It almost sounds silly, because that's probably what you're already doing, right? You're polling your audience. You're asking them, what kind of content do you need from me? How can I help you? How can I assist you? How can I make your life easier, make your life better, save you money, save you time? All the things, right? You're already on track doing this. But I actually want you to take it a step further and say, how can I help you? Not everyone out there. How can I help you? What are the things that you are struggling with? Now, you may be saying, yeah, but Krystal, I don't know how to contact all of my people. Like, how do I ask people all of individually? That sounds impossible. It's really not. If you are building an actual community, then you should have an online group. I have a Facebook group. I also have an email list where I can email people and say, hey, what are you struggling with right now? Reply to this email and let me know. And then I could ask in an IG story post, or I could ask in like a regular Instagram post. I could ask on LinkedIn, how can I help you? There are so many different touch points of how I interact with my community. So asking them, how can I help you, is a great place to start, because once you have that foundation, people will let you know, hey, can you do some more Facebook Live trainings, or maybe some more YouTube videos about this one particular topic? Or I would love to see podcast interviews that feature these kind of experts. You won't know any of that until you start actually asking your community how you can serve them better. So that is step number 2. I want you to ask your community, how can I help you? So tell me in the comments below where you are building your community. I hope that you are trying to reach people on multiple levels. Like I said, social media, your email list. Maybe it's like 5 different platforms across social media, or maybe it's just one that you have gone all in. But I want to make sure that you are trying to establish your podcast community somewhere other than just showing up every week on a podcast. I think that that's the foundation of what all of us need to have, but I want to see you take it a step further so you can really support your podcast community. So post in the comments below where you plan to do that. Okay, let's get back to the video. The third thing I want to talk about and how you can support your podcast community is letting them know, I hear you. Right? Because we've encouraged community in the first place, then we've asked them, how can I help you? Then I want you to actually, it's almost like holding up that mirror and say, you asked for this, here it is. I hear you, I see you. So what does that actually look like? Well, for me, I do polls all the time. I love doing polls, I love doing surveys, and I do this in formal and casual ways. And I think that this is a great way. Going back to that, how can I help you? When someone actually tells you, this is how you can help me, I ask them, hey, can I share this in a podcast episode? Or can I talk about this on my YouTube video? Or can I share about this in an email or a post? Because whenever I do that, it's always so fun. I'll get messages from previous clients, previous students, or someone that I interacted with in a Facebook Messenger chat. And they'll say, oh my gosh, I heard my name on the podcast. Like, you shared my story or you shared my question. And that was so cool. But that person is telling me, you hear me, you see me, you are actively trying to solve my problem. And it's not just anybody's problem, it's my problem. You heard me. And that goes so much further than just keeping everything very vague and general, and you're not really getting down to the nitty gritty. I mean, yeah, it's really easy to go along your journey that way and to keep everything kind of, little standoffish, like not really, let's not get too personal around here, but we are missing the bigger picture when we keep everything broad and general. Get to know people in your community. I can name so many people in my community because I interact with them on a weekly, if not daily basis within my podcast communities, wherever they are, whether it's on social media, my email list, or other platforms that people have reached out to me. So that is number 3. Make sure people know, I hear you, I see you. Make it a little bit more personal. Make it to where you are having that personal touch. That way you come across as more relatable to people in your podcast communities. But that does it for today. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe below if you have not already. Check out these other podcasting videos that we have right here that we put out every single week. They have strategies and tips and resources and all things podcasting. And I hope that you find them helpful. And remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere.